North Korea sending up trash-carrying balloons resumed over the weekend, but this time only about 10 over 200 balloons ended up in the south. For more, we're joined by Professor Brian Marsh this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
This time, the North sent around 240 balloons carrying trash toward the south, and about 10 of them landed here in the south. Now, what happened to the majority of them?
Well, apparently the wind was blowing in the wrong direction, which sent most of the balloons back into North Korea or further into North Korea. And I think this shows that this is a country where the orders are given at the very top by Kim Jong-un himself, and then the people on the ground, the military in this instance, carry them out without questioning. I think they must have realized that the wind was blowing in the wrong direction, but they launched the balloons anyway. I think this also reflects the resolve and the urgency with which Kim Jong-un insisted on another launch.
Right, and this is already the regime's 11th round of doing so since May this year. Professor Myers, what do you think was the reason for doing so this time? I'm sure it has its own reasons.
Well, I think the loudspeakers along the DMZ have angered the regime because it has to use precious energy by blasting its own loudspeakers to drown out the South's broadcasts, which are more hard-hitting than they were when the Park Geun-hye government turned on the loudspeakers in 2015. Back then it was just K-pop, and now it's really harsh criticism. And you know, apart from the summit with Putin, this year hasn't gone well for Kim Jong-un. We've had the flood damage. A high-level diplomatic defector has gone public in South Korea. Kim's health is getting worse. And someone ran away to South Korea just the other day who lived near the DMZ and may have been influenced by the loudspeakers. So when you add the South Korean defector groups balloon launches, I think the regime is becoming really desperate to shut down this heterodox propaganda that's coming into the country.
It has been a tough year for North Korea, especially with the latest, flood damage over the summer. And North Korea technically rejected South Korea's offer to provide humanitarian aid for, the flood damage. Instead, the leader, Kim Jong-un, decided to visit a county to meet flood victims staying at a temporary shelter. What's your take on his visit?
Well, I was quite impressed, actually, by how well that visit was staged. Though I guess to be fair to Kim Jong-un, he does appear to genuinely enjoy meeting people. He clearly likes children, in contrast to his father, who was a much more cold and distant figure. Now, this doesn't translate into any serious effort to improve the living conditions of his people, but all the same, these displays of concern and solicitude go down very well in North Korea, and they're really central to the personality cult. Here in South Korea, presidents get mixed reactions when they visit disaster sites because there's always some people who react angrily. But in North Korea, people blame the bureaucrats for their problems and not the leader. And I'm sure a lot of propaganda capital is going to be drawn from these visits for years to come.
Professor Myers, let's also talk about what happened during the Olympic period. North Korea has unilaterally applied to list Taekwondo, the traditional martial arts, as a UNESCO intangible cultural heritage. Why such a move, now?
Well, the application was apparently initiated a few months ago, but it may have been timed to become a news story during the Olympics, which always heightens the world awareness of Taekwondo. And the Olympics are also a time when South Korean athletes vastly outperform the North's athletes. And while that shouldn't matter very much to Pyongyang, I think it does. Now, by unilaterally applying to UNESCO, the North is trying to present itself as the true guardian of the Taekwondo tradition. The more important goal is to keep reminding the South Korean people that inter-Korean relations are bad. Whatever was agreed upon between North and South during the Moon Jae-in years must now be ostentatiously reversed or dismantled or canceled. And this is one of those things. In the inter-Korean honeymoon year of 2018, North and South Korea discussed making a joint approach to UNESCO in regard to this Taekwondo listing.
I see. Before I let you go, Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo-jong, was spotted serving Kim's daughter, Chue, with, extra care and politeness last week. Some say this is a really rare scene. How is it? What does that mean?
Well, as you know better than I do, Korean etiquette normally dictates that no matter how rich or important your dad is, you show respect to your dad's sister and not the other way around.
Right.
So what we have here is a kind of monarchical protocol. It's like you would see at a royal court. And it's a bit surprising to me because the regime has spent years trying to make Kim Yo-jong look like a kind of vice president, you know? And she's played a bad cop role, making the really stern or angry announcements to South Korea that her brother doesn't want to make himself. But by showing respect to a child like this, she's making very clear that she doesn't have much power at all and that this isn't a party state, but an absolute monarchy. And I think it's unwise, I think it's rash, but it indicates that Kim Jong-un, who's clearly in bad health, wants the public to accept his daughter as fast as possible as a viable successor.
Maybe. All right, Professor Myers, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.